Hey everyone, hope you're doing well. I wanted to revisit my fantasy football flag plants from 2025 and just see what I got right and what I got wrong. Honestly, it's kind of a mixed bag, so I'm not super proud of it, but I'm not super embarrassed either. So we'll just run through it real quick because I think a lot of people make content like flag plants or targets or sleepers, and they never kind of revisit it. So I want to at least own up to what I got wrong and just talk a little bit about what I got right, I suppose. I talked about Kyron Williams a lot last year. I actually did a whole video about him, so I won't talk too much more about him, but I was begging people to buy him at his price last year, which was late second, early third in a lot of leagues, and that paid off. So I wouldn't say Kyron blew my expectations out of the water, but at the same time, he had a solid season. He was a top 12 running back in every format, which I consider that a win. I do see the other side of the coin, though, just because Blake Corum did come on, which I thought he might, but I think I underestimated a little bit the impact that might have. Now, for most of the year, Corum wasn't much of a factor, so I think for most of the year, I felt great about Kyron. However, as the season went on, he did lose some touches and some touchdowns, so that hurt his season, but I mean, if you draft someone in the top 3 rounds and they're a top 12 player at running back or receiver, I consider that a win. So I think he did all right there. Next year's a different story. The next guy I had was Dak Prescott, which I talked a lot in the video about going elite or cheap at quarterback and tight end. But Dak was the one guy that I thought if you want to get a second tier guy, just wait until those first 4 or 5 quarterbacks are gone and then take Prescott next because I think he'll have a good year. And he did have a good year. He ended up about quarterback 6. So that's not really a quarterback that you had to be aggressive on. I didn't say to be aggressive necessarily, but I did think he was supposed to be the next quarterback off the board after the top guys. And he was close to that. So kind of a neutral stance on that take. George Pickens was another guy I mentioned, and that was a huge hit. I think he was a top 5 receiver in every format. I could be wrong, but that was an absolute smash for anyone that believed in Pickens. Tucker Kraft was another one. I'll take credit for that one. I know he tore his knee up, but we can't predict major injuries like that. Basically, the guy was a baller until he got hurt and was out for the year. So if you got Tucker Kraft for half the season or whatever it was, you were pretty happy with that selection, even though it didn't work out throughout the course of the entire season. I also recommended going cheap or elite at QB and tight end, like I mentioned. I'm a little iffy on how that turned out because Jalen Hurts had a disappointing year. A guy that I loved was Jaden Daniels, and he had a god-awful year. The tight ends, I think I did a little bit better. Dallas Goedert, Hunter Henry, the rookie tight ends. I mentioned all those guys, and they all had good years. They were all startable. Colston Loveland came on a little late, but other than that, all those guys were dumpster diving tight ends that you could have started for most of the year. Back to the QBs for a second, though. I think the best thing to do was actually the opposite of what I suggested, which is to get a second-tier guy, because there were a lot of second-tier guys that had really nice seasons, like Dak, like Caleb Williams, like Trevor Lawrence, and there was even more than that. And some of the dumpster-diving quarterbacks that I mentioned all had bad seasons. So Geno Smith, J.J. McCarthy, I really miss those. So sorry if you listened to me on the dumpster-diving quarterbacks. But anyways, overall, kind of a mixed bag. This whole list is kind of a mixed bag. The last 2 guys, I just blew it. A.J. Brown, I thought was a back-end first-round pick that people were sleeping on. They just didn't run the ball much. They had a bad season, and they didn't throw to him much. What sucks about players like this is he was my wide receiver 1 in a league that I was in, and I was basically buried before the season even started because I think after the first 2 or 3 weeks, I just kept telling people, like, if A.J. Brown is going to get 17 yards every game, my season's basically already over. And that was kind of, I imagine that's the case for a lot of teams. I was really relying on him, and I don't think he's too old. I don't think he's too slow. I think it was just a really weird year. I do think they might trade him. We'll see about that. But I think he's still a baller. It's just last year everything went wrong, like literally everything. And then lastly, we have a guy that I thought would be a top 5 tight end, and he just wasn't, which was Mark Andrews. I went really against the grain there. I thought this guy is not old. The team loves throwing touchdowns to him. There's nothing to be scared of, even though Isaiah Likely was there. And Isaiah Likely didn't even take over Mark Andrews' job, really, like a lot of people expected. So it wasn't like the Mark Andrews detractors were exactly right here. And he did have his moments, but I mean, this was just not a tight end to go after. And I recommended targeting him, and I was wrong. Again, I didn't recommend being super aggressive, but on the other hand, I did say that you should make a point to get him after the top guys went. So that was a miss. But overall, I mean, I'm happy with Kyron, George Pickens, Tucker Kraft, the cheap tight ends that I said you could get late. I mean, some of them were awesome last year. So I think I had some hits there. I definitely had some big misses with A.J. Brown, Mark Andrews, and some of the quarterbacks that I named. It was like, I hope you stayed away from those guys. But at any rate, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you took this to heart and just appreciated the honesty because, hey, we all get stuff right and stuff wrong in fantasy. And I think it's important to revisit that and just see what we could do better next year. But the problem is, I don't really know if you can do that simply because every year is so different. But all we can do is just reflect and see what maybe we could adjust for the coming year. But I hope to have more fantasy videos after the NFL draft. So as these rookies get drafted and get on their respective teams and we can evaluate them further, I'll probably do some more football content here soon. I would like to hear what you guys think about these hits and misses that I had. I know some of them weren't so great, but I'm sure everyone has their share every year. So tell me what you think, and look out for more content in the coming months here as the off-season heats up and the weather warms up. So I'll talk to you soon.